Now let's talk about group policy objects. When you're thinking about the terminologies of the whole group policy world, group policy objects is the little file, if you will, or the little object that holds all the settings that we created. And you will see how to create and edit one of these a little bit later on. But let's do just a real quick example here. As you know, if I can get to the run box, then I can execute a lot of command prompt type commands, and I can get a lot of places in my computer, especially if I've inadvertently been given more permissions than I was supposed to have had. So one of the things that a lot of administrators like to do, or one thing that's a great idea to do now, is to use group policy to limit all the options that the users have. If they can't get to the run box, then they can't execute commands to damage their computer or the network. You know what I'm saying? If they can't get into the control panel, then they can't, make changes to their computer that's going to cause problems for them or somebody else. So one of the things that a lot of administrators do is they hide the run box. And so they will go in, create a group policy object that basically turns off the run box. Then they will link that group policy object to a domain or an OU. And sure enough, when the user logs in, they notice that they can't see the run box. So and there's bazillions of things that you can set with these things. Now, a group policy object is simply a collection of settings that we want to have take place on user login or on the computer startup. Now, you can create a GPO from scratch, and you'll actually see this a little bit later in the same course, but in a different video. So you can create them from scratch. They can be copied and edited, and this is the way a lot of people like to work with them. And then we can just edit them. We can, anytime we'd like, go in and just edit a group policy object and make whatever changes we would like. Now, let me stop right here and tell you, group policy will make you rethink your organizational unit structure, your domain structure, and all that. And I always tell people that your second Active Directory design will be a good one, because you will learn so many things in that first one, and you're like, man, if I'd created my OUs this way, I could just apply one set of policy at the very top level, nested my OUs in there, and taken care of it all at once. The temptation is going to be to create a lot of group policy objects and apply them all over the place. But do keep in mind that the more of these objects that have to be applied, the slower logon is, or the slower system startup is. So you want to fight that temptation. Now, there are two parts of a GPO, or group policy object. And I'm just going to mention these because they can become problematic. There is the group policy container, and then there is the group policy template. Both of these together create what we know as a group policy object. Now, there is an oddity that when this group policy is being replicated from domain controller to domain controller, because they all need to know about this, the container and the template here, this container and this template, can get into situations where they're not replicated at the same time. Two different services actually handle replicating these things, and they can get out of whack. It's a southern technical term there, okay? But they can become not concurrent, I guess you could say, and it can cause some issues, and we'll talk about how to find those a little bit later on. So group policy objects are the things we're going to create and apply to our domains, sites, and OUs to make settings happen the way we want them to. So just keep that in mind, and then as we go through the other aspects of group policy, you will see the group policy object in action.